After 5 years of having NBA season tickets, I've been to well over 100 games, got a ton of perks, picked up way too much gear, and I've even seen that confetti fall at the NBA Finals because my team won the championship at home. If you're looking into getting season tickets, I'm going to share some tips and some things that I've learned from the past 5 years. And you might not realize that many parts of being a season ticket holder seem to get worse as your team gets better. And it's not just that the cost of my season tickets has gone up by 148% in the past 5 years, but keep watching and I'll explain. I've had NFL season tickets before, but I get a lot of questions about the NBA, so let's start with some uniquely cool experiences that I've had as a season ticket holder. There's been a lot. I've gone to random Christmas and Halloween events around Denver for free. I've gotten some exclusive but odd Nugget swag, like this aluminum cup that I'm sure I'll lose next time we move. Like, I got this bowling pin at a Nuggets event at a place that has bowling. If you live in Denver, it's at Pindustry. When there's a Nuggets event there, they put all the arcade machines on free play. And I actually have 3 of these because people forgot to pick theirs up. I got this Nuggets travel shoe bag. I have never used this thing. I have like 40 pairs of shoes, but I don't travel with my nice shoes. Maybe you're supposed to bring them to the gym. I've just never used it. I also have 3 of these because people didn't pick theirs up. For some fun stuff, I got to take the ceremonial first shot for the Nuggets during COVID that they put on their Instagram story. They put a press release out about it for some reason. If you Google Dave Chung Nuggets, it will probably come up, and I hope they keep it up there forever. I was a virtual fan on the big screens in the NBA bubble twice. I've held the flag during the national anthem during pregame. It is awesome. The players are like 2 feet away from you. We've done fun Nuggets events around the city. They usually interview them, do something funny, and we get some free food. The holidays are coming up, and our family has taken Santa pictures with Rocky multiple times. We'll talk more about this one later, but I've played on the court at Ball Arena every year with the exception of COVID. This year, I actually shot pretty well from 3 for the first time inside the arena, and I think it's oddly because I've gotten used to shooting in an empty stadium. I'm now realizing that's kind of a crazy, low-key flex thing to say, and I apologize. And most importantly, I've been to every home opener and probably 75% of our home playoff games since 2019. Now, I stood in a line forever to take a picture with Jamal Murray and PJ Dozier at a season ticket holder event. I sat in the 3rd row for a scrimmage at Ball Arena, and Jamal Murray and Aaron Gordon actually signed our kid's head. Some of this stuff you can't make up. My first season that I had season tickets, I went to a scrimmage at a local high school and literally sat down next to Isaiah Thomas and snapped a selfie with Michael Porter Jr. I wasn't cutting into his practice time. He was injured, so he was just hanging out on the bench. But it was crazy because I just yelled his name and he walked over. At another scrimmage, we got a ball signed exclusively by players who are no longer on the team. So like Malik Beasley, Mason Plumlee, Torrey Craig, guys like that. Kind of hilarious that those are the guys who were sent out to sign autographs, but I still love that ball. And it's important to know that a lot of these events are announced really close to when they happen, so you gotta be on your email and jump on that RSVP the second that you see it. I cannot tell you how many season ticket holders I've talked to at games that have had no idea that these events have even gone on. Also, if you're into this video so far, please give it a like to help more people find it, and especially if you live in Denver, feel free to hit that subscribe button. Those likes and subscribes help me a ton, and they're completely free. Now back to the video. One of the best parts about having NBA season tickets is how much more relaxed you are when going to games because it all becomes familiar. While chances are your home doesn't have 15,000 seats in it, the arena starts to feel like a place that you hang out at instead of a place that you go to once or twice a year for games and concerts. You know which entry lane goes the fastest from outside, which door to use, and exactly how to get to your seats no matter where you enter. If you drive to the game, you'll get to know a couple parking lots that are convenient to you, and if you're running a little late, it's no big deal because you've already seen the pregame video. And for the Nuggets, you know that the best in-stadium video is actually at the start of the 4th quarter, so it's even less of a big deal. You notice when they change the music, update the highlights, or try something new in the arena because you've seen it all. I've been a basketball and sports fan my whole life, so going to games still feels exciting, but it just doesn't feel complicated anymore. In my first video I made about season tickets many years ago, I mentioned how my seats are in the last row of the 100 level behind the basket, kind of at an angle to the hoop. Behind me is a wall and a luxury box, and I said it was a great value seat, and I still think that's true. Because every stadium's a little different, I'd highly recommend going to a game or two and walking around and really familiarizing yourself with the different sections so that you can know what's around. Like the 200 level for us in Denver is the club level. They have better food, cleaner bathrooms, much fewer seats, and a sit-down eating area. It's generally better for families, especially with young kids. It's a less intense environment, but it's not the place to sit if you want to be in the mix and jumping up and down and hugging strangers. Like when we take our 4-year-old and 1-year-old to games, we sell our seats and try to sit in the club section. In contrast, the Suns and 4 guy who went full E-Honda on a Nuggets fan was in the section next to ours, and security has come to our section multiple times when an opposing fan wants to play the villain for the night. And that brings me to my next point. So much of your experience can change based on who's sitting next to you and if they have season tickets. For 2 seasons, a good chunk of our row and the row in front of ours was season ticket holders. There were about 14 of us. We were all big fans, and it felt like we were just hanging out at every game, and man, it was a good time. We knew each other's names, favorite players, and had each other's backs when we wanted to get a chant going or do something stupid. I'm very confident that we were one of the funniest sections at Pepsi Center, now Ball Arena. And because we had a good section, we went to a lot of games. Weekends, weekdays. We were tired the next day at work, but we went because we were hanging out with our friends. Now 5 years in, I realize how rare and special that was because it's not always like that. Eventually, some people moved out of state, people had kids, dropped their tickets, and there were only 4 of us left, and it really changed things. Unless you try to buy tickets with friends on both sides of you, like buying a house, you can't choose your neighbors. You can have great neighbors like I did for those 2 seasons, and it makes the big wins even better. And there are so many times that I wish that original crew was there with us to watch the team hoist the trophy after winning the finals. Or you can feel stuck for an entire season like I do right now because there are some impressively intoxicated people in my neighboring seats. If I decide to keep them, I know that at the very least, I'll be moving my seats for the first time next year. It's a little devastating because I had dreams of being that old guy who had the same seats for 30 years, but with 2 young kids who will be young for a while, these just aren't the seats for us right now, and that's okay. To that point, I'd recommend looking at your life stage and thinking about how you're gonna use the tickets. If you're gonna go to all the games, use them for date nights, take coworkers after a long work day, think about if it's realistic for you to use the tickets in the way that you plan to. Regardless, nearby fans who are also season ticket holders are one of the biggest wildcards before you commit to your seats. And I'm not saying to stereotype anyone, but you might want to think about the types of fans who buy tickets in certain sections to see if that matches the vibe that you're going for. Where you sit matters, and it's a ton of money, and I'll give you all the details on what I pay for my tickets. When you have season tickets, they generally cost a little bit less than face. You have to buy playoff tickets separately, but those are more heavily discounted. Parking isn't included with my tickets, and I wouldn't get it anyways unless you're planning to go to 100% of the games. Chances are someone who buys your tickets and goes to 1 game a year isn't looking to buy resale parking tickets. I pay for my tickets in 5 installments, but you can pay for it all at once if you don't want to think about it. I might pay around $10 to $15 less than face during the regular season, but for the NBA Finals, I paid about $600 less because face value in my section was in the 900s. If your team makes the playoffs, you should have the option to buy your same seats throughout the entire playoffs and get refunded for any games that aren't played. Or you should be able to buy your tickets by round, which is what I do. They pretend that it's going to go to game 7, and then they refund you if the series doesn't go to 7. Either way, season ticket holders generally get first right of refusal for playoff tickets. If your team is like the Nuggets, you might get the option to buy more playoff tickets at true face value, so it'll be more than you paid for your season seats. But anybody who's hustled tickets before knows that the resale value of these tickets can change dramatically depending on how the series goes. For example, you might buy extra playoff tickets at true face value thinking that you're gonna make a killing on them, your team goes down 3-0, and you will lose money on that ticket. And it's obvious why, right? Like, most people don't want to pay to be sad. Similarly, if you are a true 1 superstar team, like people might say the Nuggets, Spurs, and Grizzlies are right now, if that person gets injured or traded, your ticket values will drop like a rock that has a bigger rock on top of it. I think those rocks would actually just fall at the same speed because of gravity, but you know what I mean. If you're thinking about buying season tickets just to sell them, online selling fees, the rising costs of sports tickets, and variable pricing have made it a lot trickier to turn a profit. There are people out there who do it, you just really need to know your market. It's not as easy as it was in the early 2000s. For a mid-market team like Denver, even if you can turn a profit on the regular season, which would be impressive on its own, it's not going to be incredible unless we make it all the way to the finals. And let's be real, that seems unlikely because we have the thinnest bench in the league, we're stuck in the second apron, and we don't have any realistic game-changer trade options, but as a fan, I guess I can believe. Now, let me explain how the season ticket experience has gotten worse as Jokic has stacked MVPs and the team has actually gotten nationally televised games. Let's be clear, I never dreamed that I'd be at the NBA Finals, and any real fan will tell you that winning a championship is more important than all this stuff, but let's talk about it. First, season tickets are a pretty large expense, and it's changed a lot in 5 years. Back in 2019, I paid $2,940 for 2 seats, which is laughably low compared to many major markets. Again, this is for the last row, the 100 level, roughly behind the basket at an angle. Fast forward to this season, I paid $7,310 for those exact same 2 seats. From $2,940 to $7,310. We're talking about an average of $36 per ticket, going to $89 per ticket, plus preseason games that you give to your coworkers that you don't like that much. So for me and my wife, that means that going to a game went from an average of $72 to almost $180 in 5 years. And of course, let's remember that every team uses variable pricing now, so a weekend game against the Lakers or Warriors is going to cost a lot more than a Tuesday night game against the Wizards. And when it comes to variable pricing, a lot of times it's not about records, it's also about star power. Fans come to see individual players as much as they do teams. But if you're watching this in the future and the Wizards have somehow become good and Jordan Poole is the face of the NBA instead of Shaq and a fool, the Wizards were around 3-20 when I made this video. Not only do the tickets cost more when I go, this funflation has been pretty devastating for resale for games I can't make it to. From talking to other season ticket holders and fans, prices have just gone up faster than what a lot of people in Denver want to pay. Before, at $36 a ticket, I could break even or make a profit on pretty much any game, any way I wanted to sell it. There was really no risk. My tickets were like a crappy savings account that didn't pay interest, but I could get my money back whenever I wanted it. This season, for a number of reasons, mostly because we have 2 young kids and I'm working a ton right now, I'll probably make it to about 6 regular season games compared to my usual 15 to 20. Because ticket prices have gone up so fast and the Nuggets don't look great, in total, I bet I'll lose around $1,500 reselling tickets this season. And that's not on me, I've literally been selling tickets online for 25 years. I use an AI platform that sells the tickets for me. That's really just what's happening. That's like 3.5 PS5s, 7 pairs of retro Jordans, or more than 1% of a Bitcoin. I don't think that any Nuggets season ticket holder would have expected prices to go up this much this fast, but this is the world we live in. It would be one thing if we built a new arena and there was personal seat licenses and everything, but this is the same place. Because of this, and my seat neighbors who seem to only know the words f and shit, this is the first season that I've considered dropping down to a quarter season package next year. But being a Nuggets season ticket holder almost feels like part of my identity, and it's hard to let go of something that was once a childhood dream. But if you don't care about money and you're in it for the experiences, I wanted to share how much our perks have changed since the team started contending for a championship. In my first few years, it never seemed like there were a lot of season ticket holders. We had a quickly improving Jokic and a healthy Jamal Murray, but not a lot of star power, just a solid team from top to bottom. As a result, the perks felt really special, like you were part of a small club of people who knew the names of every guy on the court and on the bench. When I went to that scrimmage at a literal high school in Denver, there were maybe a few hundred people there. The next time they did a scrimmage like that, it was at the Olympic training facility down in Colorado Springs. 1,000 people max showed up. For both of those, it was so much fun. It really felt like you were a fan on the inside. The fact that I could just sit next to Isaiah Thomas and talk to him, no crowds, no standing in lines, it was amazing. And because the team was lacking star power, we would just randomly get tickets to things around the city that were fun. From watch parties to other nighttime events, we got exclusive access to random things that filled our social calendar, and it made you feel like you were part of something. Some events were Nuggets related, like Rocky's birthday party, which was crazy because we were just in a room with a bunch of mascots walking around with cake. And others were tickets to things like a fan night at Blossoms of Light at Denver Botanic Gardens, and those tickets aren't easy to get. Every year, you were guaranteed a Meet the Team event where you stood in a long line and took a picture with your favorite players. Since there weren't a lot of us, it was really fun to hang out with other season ticket holders who were super knowledgeable fans and talk about the team. Just a few years back, there weren't a lot of people on the court for the special days when Nuggets season ticket holders can play on the court while the team is on a long road trip. When I think about it, it was kind of crazy how few people were there. You could shoot around like you were at the rec center just on a pristine NBA court. And as the team has gotten better, those days are long gone. When I held the flag on the court for the national anthem, that used to be free for season ticket holders. You could only do it once a season, but at least it was free. Starting this year, it now costs $100 per person, which is kind of crazy to spend $200 for something that me and my wife would have done for free last year. The team didn't even have a preseason scrimmage this year. They were in Abu Dhabi, so kind of an exception. But when or if these scrimmages happen now, they're at Ball Arena, and they're kind of just like a preseason game, but there's no actual game to watch. Unless you're in the front 5 rows like I was, there's little to no access to the team, which is kind of sad when you see a bunch of kids walking in with basketballs that they're hoping to get signed. Every year, Rocky used to hang out with fans on the court and at lots of events during the season, and Santa pictures with Rocky were a regular thing. It was a great thing for kids and families, and it made you feel closer to the team because you had access to something that most people didn't. This year, he didn't even come to the fan day on the court, but it's also a new, lesser Rocky that hasn't spent 30 years of his life forging his identity as a mountain lion. By the way, I have met original Rocky as a human, and if you're a deep-cut NBA fan, there's a whole story about the changing of the Rockies, and you should search for it because it is tragic. While we still have that day where we get to play around on the court, it's so much more crowded and much less family-friendly than it used to be. It literally used to be a small enough group that we would play an organized game of knockout at the end. I would typically come in third, I never won. But one thing hasn't changed about those events in particular, it's the lowest shooting percentage you've ever seen going back to your days at the Boys and Girls Club. All that being said, it still feels special to be on the court, and one day I hope our kids realize how awesome this was. They just won't be able to go and get a rebound for themselves until they're maybe 10 years old. It's pretty chaotic in the paint, and you wonder how so many basketballs can hit people directly in the face. And probably the most sad thing, meet the team events aren't a thing anymore. The team is too popular now. Honestly, I'm not sure if we'll ever see them again. My guess is that we'd have to be really, really bad to get those events back, but with the current state of our bench and salary cap issues, I guess it's not impossible, but that'd be a pretty poor trade just to get those meet the team events back. And yes, a lot of this is what naturally happens when a team gets more popular, especially after winning a championship, but you should know about it before you get charmed by perks by a super smooth season ticket rep. Depending on how your team operates and performs, chances are some of these perks are a little cyclical. But one thing that will always be amazing is sitting courtside at an NBA game, and here's a video that I made about sitting in the very first row and how to get the most out of it. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you over there.